Ah, yes. The Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, or as the internet oh so affectionately calls it, SPUMC. Its next two movies, Morbius and Venom Let There Be Carnage, are both slated for a 2021 release, and we haven't gotten release dates for any other projects that are in development. So what's happening next with SPUMC, and how will it tie in with the MCU? That's what we'll be talking about today. So, the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters first came into being as a phoenix rising from the ashes of The Amazing Spider-Man. Prior to the release of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Sony announced that along with more sequels, they would be making spin-offs for the Sinister Six and Venom as part of the same universe, with more spin-offs in development. Without delving into the history of The Amazing Spider-Man's failed universe, which I'll probably make a video about at some point, this was done to try and make somewhat of a cinematic universe around the Spider-Man mythos. But this was all scrapped when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a big ol' flop. So, Sony decided to reboot again, but this time in the MCU. In March of 2016, conveniently when hype was high for Spider-Man's MCU debut in Captain America Civil War, Sony announced that Venom would be resurrected as a standalone film that not only wasn't in the MCU, but would be launching its own cinematic universe. One without Spider-Man, it would seem. But later, Amy Pascal claimed that Venom, while not officially in the MCU, was not explicitly intended to not be in the MCU, and that it was in fact supposed to exist in the same world as the MCU. So Venom came out in 2020 and was a success, and it was around the time of Venom and a little before that a ton of other movies were quote-unquote in development from Sony. Enough that you could tell that at least half of them probably wouldn't get made. This also meant a Venom sequel was greenlit and that Morbius, which was the movie closest to production at the time of Venom's release, could finally start filming. Now, let's talk about its connection to the MCU. Venom was kind of standalone, with the fact that it took place in Los Angeles, meaning that since most of the MCU events took place in New York City, it could stay out of the way of those movies enough that you could reason it into the MCU. There was nothing in the movie itself explicitly connecting it to the MCU, however. Apparently, at one point, they planned for Tom Holland to cameo in the movie, and rumors have it they may have even filmed the scene, but Marvel Studios intervened and shut it down. Honestly, in retrospect, I think Sony always intended Venom and the rest of SPUMC to be fully in the MCU, but just realize that if they waited until negotiations to extend their contract with Marvel, they could kind of force them into allowing them to connect SPUMC to the MCU more. This has become more evident in the information that we have gotten on both Morbius and Venom Let There Be Carnage so far. In the Morbius trailer, we see an image of Spider-Man in the background with the word murderer spray painted over top, referencing Spider-Man Far From Home, as well as an appearance of Michael Keaton as the Vulture. If I had to guess, these weren't originally in the movie, and then shortly after Sony and Disney renewed their deal and allowed SPUMC to connect better with the MCU, they had these put in during reshoots. The Vulture probably won't even be a huge part of Morbius, but we don't have a trailer for Venom Let There Be Carnage yet, but we do have a still of Eddie with a bus in the background saying, "Where's Spider-Man?" on it. So, where is this going? Well, I think they're going to become more and more integrated, with it just starting with Sony's movies referencing Marvel movies, and then eventually we'll get some Sony Marvel movies with characters from both franchises. So what does this look like? Well, let's look at what the next few films in SPUMC are likely to be. Not long after the Sony Marvel deal was renewed, Sony announced they were writing a script for a Madam Web movie, with this movie being the first woman-led SPUMC movie. This will probably lay the groundwork for their sort of endgame, a live-action Spider-Verse. That being said, this will probably come out sometime in 2022, bouncing off of Doctor Strange 2 and leading into Spider-Man 4. Then there's Spider-Woman. So earlier this year, it was rumored that a Spider-Woman movie was in development at Sony, and then a couple months ago, news dropped that Olivia Wilde had signed on to direct a female-led Spider-Man movie, with the rumor being that it was Spider-Woman. I theorized at the time, and still kinda do, that this movie was the same one as the untitled movie that Roberto Orci was announced to be writing this year, and had a release date for next year before being taken off the schedule because of Corona. So it seems that Sony is fast-tracking that, and it will probably come out in 2022, maybe even beating out Madam Web for the first female-led Sony Marvel movie. Next is Kraven. A Kraven movie has been in the works for a while now. The script has been written and there's been talk with some directors, and a casting call for it was even put out before COVID. If I had to guess, this would probably be the next Sony movie coming out in 2023. Then we'll get Spider-Man 4, which will be our Spider-Verse movie that will fully cement SPUMC and MCU as essentially being one, though maybe Kraven comes after that, who knows. Like I said in my Phase 5 predictions video, in 2024 we're probably going to get a Sony Marvel Studios Sinister Six movie. In the Sony email leaks, Amy Pascal said she was interested in doing a Sinister Six movie with Marvel Studios in the MCU. Then, after Venom, it was said by Amy Pascal that they would probably resurrect Drew Goddard's script for a Sinister Six movie for the Amazing Spider-Man universe and have Goddard direct it, presumably with a few tweaks as part of SPUMC. She also said after Far From Home came out that they had worked out a way in which Mysterio could have survived in case they wanted to bring him back for something like that. And now in the Morbius trailer, it almost seems like they want Vulture to start forming the Sinister Six in that movie with Michael Morbius. But the problem is, I don't see Goddard's script fitting with what Sony seems to want to do. So it'll probably be greatly rewritten or scrapped and redone altogether. We'll probably also get Venom 3 in 2024 as well, but earlier. Then Spider-Man 5 will probably be the Spider-Man vs. Sinister Six movie. But there's another element to this universe I haven't talked about yet. TV shows. In response to Marvel Studios starting up their MCU shows on Disney+, Sony has started development for miniseries as a part of SPUMC. Where they'll be is unknown, but there are a bunch that are being worked on by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. The two that we know of are Silver and Black, a Silver Sable and Black Cat team-up show based off of plans for the abandoned film of the same name originally set for release in 2019, and Silk, which also was said to be in development as a movie before being announced as being a TV show. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to for Sony's Marvel movies, provided they're good. What do you guys think? What do you want to see from Sony? Let me know down in the comments and I'll see you next time. Bye.